Have you noticed that when most women try to talk to a married man, they follow a predictable script? They start with obvious questions, search for common ground, and almost always end up sounding like every other woman he has ever met. And that is exactly where the mistake begins. If you sound predictable, you have already lost before the conversation even starts. Carl Jung believed that what is predictable loses its power because it never touches the soul. The human unconscious opens itself to mystery, to silence charged with energy, to what awakens without the need for explanation. Speaking to a married man is not about flattery or collecting answers. It is about presence, magnetism, and unspoken power. Since childhood, we are taught that asking questions is a sign of interest. But here, too many questions reveal something deeper: neediness. They expose that you don't trust your own energy to carry the connection. And believe me, he feels it, not consciously but instinctively. In silence, Jung would say, "It is your shadow that speaks the loudest." The power of silent presence. There is a moment that happens before words, a space where silence becomes louder than any question you could ever ask. When you are in the presence of a married man, this silence is not empty. It carries weight, tension, and a magnetic pull that can shape the entire interaction. Jung would call this a field of energy, an invisible current that flows between two people even before they speak. Most women are taught that conversation is built on questions, but questions can quickly drain the mystery from an interaction. When you ask where he works, what he likes to do in his free time, or how his day was, you place yourself in the position of needing information. This exposes a lack of self-confidence. It reveals that you are not secure enough in your own presence to let the silence work for you. Silent presence is different. It does not chase. It does not demand. It simply exists with strength. When you sit with a married man and resist the urge to fill the space with noise, you allow him to feel something unexpected: your self-possession. And that is far more powerful than any clever line. Jung believed that every person projects their unconscious onto others. When you remain silent yet steady, you become a mirror. He sees parts of himself in you, desires, shadows, and unspoken thoughts that he might not even admit to himself. Your silence becomes the canvas where his unconscious paints. This is why presence without questions feels so magnetic. It awakens what is hidden. Think of the silence not as absence, but as atmosphere. When you hold yourself with calm and confidence, the silence between you two becomes charged with meaning. Every look, every subtle movement, every shift in energy speaks louder than rehearsed words. Jung would say that this is the unconscious communicating, bypassing the surface of polite talk and going straight to the deeper levels of the psyche. But silent presence is not about passivity. It is not about being quiet because you are afraid to speak. It is about being rooted in your own energy, grounded in who you are so that you don't need to constantly reach out for validation. This kind of silence is active. It is intentional. It shows that you trust yourself enough to let the interaction breathe. When you embody this kind of energy, the married man feels it. He may not understand why, but he senses that you are different. Most people rush to fill silence. You do not. Most people beg for recognition. You radiate it without words. In that contrast, you stand out. You are not trying to take from him. Instead, you allow the interaction to unfold naturally, which is disarming and deeply attractive. Jung spoke of the shadow, the hidden part of the self that we try to suppress. Silent presence awakens the shadow in others. It creates a space where unspoken desires surface, where hidden thoughts creep closer to awareness. When you do not rush to speak, he begins to project his own inner world onto you. Suddenly, you become more than a person in front of him. You become a symbol of what he has repressed or secretly longs for. This is why presence is more powerful than words. Words can be dismissed, but presence lingers. Words can be forgotten, but the feeling of someone who holds themselves with quiet power cannot be erased. Presence does not compete. It simply is, and in being, it unsettles, awakens, and draws in. So, the next time you find yourself in front of a married man, remember this: the most magnetic thing you can offer is not a question or a clever remark. It is the calm strength of silence, the mystery of your own energy, and the unshakable awareness that you do not need to chase validation. Jung would say that in that moment, you are no longer just speaking to him. You are speaking to his unconscious, to his shadow, to the part of him that craves what words can never satisfy. Silent presence is not the absence of action. It is the highest form of action. It is the art of letting your energy speak before your mouth does. The discipline of trusting that what is unspoken carries more power than what is forced. And when you master this, you will discover a truth that Jung knew well. It is not noise that changes people, but the weight of presence that enters their soul and refuses to leave. Why questions weaken your energy? When you approach a married man, the impulse to ask questions often feels natural. From childhood, we are trained to show interest by asking, "Where do you live? What do you do? What are your hobbies?" These patterns are drilled into us at school, at work, in everyday interactions. But in the space of attraction and power, questions do not strengthen you. They weaken you. Carl Jung would explain this as the difference between conscious strategy and unconscious truth. On the surface, questions seem polite and attentive. But beneath, they send a hidden message. I don't trust that my presence is enough. I need you to feed the silence with your answers. This is not about curiosity. It is about signaling lack. And lack is always felt. Every time you lean too heavily on questions, you place yourself in a position of dependence. Instead of standing in your own energy, you reach for his. The conversation shifts away from your magnetism and centers on his comfort. In Jungian terms, this is projection. You unconsciously project your insecurity onto the interaction, hoping he will cover it up with details about himself. The problem is that questions drain mystery. They strip away the tension that silence naturally creates. Imagine sitting across from him and asking one question after another. With each answer, the energy drops. The dynamic becomes predictable, like filling out a form. Nothing stirs his unconscious, nothing challenges his shadow. Instead, you play the role of the interviewer, while he becomes the center of gravity. In that role reversal, your power fades. True strength in conversation is not about collecting information. It is about creating impact. Jung believed that people are moved not by facts but by symbols, archetypes, and emotions that touch the unconscious. Questions rarely reach that level. They operate in the realm of the surface where small talk lives. Presence, on the other hand, touches something deeper. Think about the unspoken signals in every interaction. Eye contact that lingers, pauses that carry weight, body language that expresses more than words. These are the spaces where energy circulates. When you ask too many questions, you interrupt this flow. You turn something charged with meaning into something ordinary. Instead of becoming the symbol of mystery, you become the woman who needs reassurance. There is another danger. Questions make you predictable. Most people already know the routine. They expect to be asked about their job, their family, their likes and dislikes. When you step into that script, you disappear into the category of just another person. Jung would warn that predictability blocks transformation. Nothing new is awakened when the script is familiar, so what should you do instead? The answer is not to retreat into silence completely, but to replace questions with statements, observations, and reflections that carry energy. For example, instead of asking, "Do you like this place?" you might simply remark, "This place has a strange energy, don't you feel it?" Notice the difference. One seeks validation, the other invites presence. One is neediness, the other is awareness. When you remove unnecessary questions, you communicate something profound without saying it directly. I am complete. I don't need to pull from you to feel alive in this moment. This triggers a shift in dynamic. He begins to lean toward you, to wonder about you, to feel the tension that questions usually dissolve. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming whole. By not asking, you show wholeness. This does not mean you must be cold or distant. It means that your words should add energy, not drain it. Ask yourself, does this statement create more curiosity or does it collapse it? If it collapses it, stay silent. If it creates tension, let it land. Presence is not about saying a lot. It is about saying what carries weight. When you embody this discipline, you become unforgettable. He will not remember the details of your questions because everyone asks them, but he will remember how he felt in your presence because that experience is rare. Jung often wrote that people don't truly meet each other at the surface. They meet in the depths where symbols and shadows live. By refusing to weaken yourself with empty questions, you guide the interaction to those depths. In the end, questions are easy. They require little effort, little self-trust. Silent presence combined with powerful statements requires courage. It means being comfortable with the unknown, with pauses, with the possibility that he will project his unconscious onto you. But it is exactly in that space that true magnetism lives. And once you understand this, you will see why questions weaken your energy, because they trade depth for comfort, and comfort never awakens desire. If this message spoke to you, don't let it fade. The Jung Method is waiting in the pinned comment, your path to turn reflection into real transformation. The shadow that draws you in. There is something both dangerous and magnetic about speaking with a married man. On the surface, it may appear to be ordinary attraction, curiosity, or even temptation. But Jung would remind us that it is much more than that. What pulls you is not simply his presence, it is your own unconscious being reflected back to you. This is the power of the shadow, and it explains why connections that seem forbidden often feel the most irresistible. The shadow is the hidden part of the personality, the side that we suppress or deny. It carries impulses we are told to reject, desires we bury, and feelings we pretend are not there. For many women, the shadow contains unspoken longings and parts of themselves society told them to silence. When you find yourself drawn to a married man, this shadow stirs. The forbidden quality of the encounter feeds it, making the attraction even stronger. But this awakening is not only happening within you. His shadow is activated as well. The ring on his finger symbolizes boundaries, duty, and social order, yet the quiet charge between you opens the door to what he has buried inside himself. Jung wrote that the shadow does not stay silent forever. It always pushes for expression. In every glance that lasts too long and every silence that feels heavy, both shadows meet and begin their dance. This meeting is not rational. It cannot be explained by logic. That is why so many people say, I know I shouldn't, but I can't stop feeling drawn to him. Jung would say this is projection. You are not only seeing him, you are seeing parts of yourself that you have not yet integrated. And he in turn is seeing parts of himself reflected in you. Each of you becomes a mirror for the other's hidden world. That is why these moments feel so intense. It is not just a man and a woman talking. It is two unconscious landscapes colliding. Every look, every pause becomes charged with meaning. It feels as though something larger than you is moving through the space. Jung believed this was the unconscious at work, pulling people together so they could confront the truths they avoid in their waking life. Yet while the shadow pulls you in, it also carries danger. If you are unaware, you may confuse fantasy with reality. You may mistake projection for destiny. Jung warned that when the shadow remains unrecognized, it takes control. The married man becomes the stage where your unconscious plays out its script, and you risk losing yourself in the performance. Awareness is the key. When you sense the pull, resist the urge to interrogate him with questions. Instead, turn inward and ask silently, what part of me is being stirred? What desire is speaking through this attraction? The power is not only in him, it is within you. The attraction is symbolic. It points to the places in your life where you crave intensity, depth, and authenticity. The shadow, then, is not your enemy. Jung believed it is your greatest teacher. It shows you the parts of yourself you have ignored. If you stay conscious, you can use this pull as a mirror. Instead of becoming trapped in longing for him, you can recognize what your soul is trying to reveal. Perhaps it is a hunger for passion, a need for freedom, or a call to reclaim forgotten strength. Once you see the shadow clearly, everything shifts. You no longer feel powerless in front of him. The energy is real, but it belongs to you as much as to him. The same pull that could drag you into confusion can also awaken clarity. Shadow energy is raw. It can destroy when unconscious, but it can also fuel transformation when faced directly. This is the paradox of forbidden attraction. What feels dangerous also contains wisdom. The shadow pushes you to confront parts of yourself that you might avoid otherwise. That is why these moments stay with you. They are not simply about him. They are about you meeting yourself in the mirror of desire. So when you feel that overwhelming pull, remember Jung's warning. The shadow draws you in because it wants to be seen. Do not deny it, but do not let it dominate you. Stand firm in your presence. Hold awareness steady. Recognize the mirror for what it is. In doing so, you reclaim your power. You stop being a prisoner of unconscious longing and instead become the one who integrates it. The shadow draws you in because it holds truth. Not the truth of romance or fantasy, but the truth of your hidden depths. Once you face it, you realize you are not only speaking to a married man, you are speaking with your own unconscious. And that conversation, though silent, can transform everything. Unspoken signals you must notice. In every interaction, there are two conversations happening at once. the one with words and the one without them. Most people focus only on language, but Jung believed the unconscious speaks more truthfully through the unspoken, gestures, silences, and small movements that cannot be controlled. When you are with a married man, what remains unsaid often reveals more than what is spoken. Learning to see these signals is essential, because they show you the hidden energy shaping the connection. The eyes are often the first place to look. A married man may keep his words polite, but if his gaze lingers a moment too long, the unconscious is speaking. It is not random. It signals conflict between his outer role and his inner desire. That brief hesitation carries weight. Jung would say that in such moments, the shadow pushes through the mask. You do not need to ask questions. His eyes tell the story without words. Posture and body shifts are another language. A man who insists he feels nothing may still lean slightly toward you without realizing it. He may adjust his stance, straighten his shoulders, or mirror your movements. These are not conscious strategies. They are instinctive reflections of inner attraction. Jung taught that the psyche finds ways to reveal itself, even when the conscious mind tries to stay in control. Silence is one of the most powerful signals of all. Many people rush to fill pauses, afraid of the tension. Yet silence is not empty, it is full. When he does not immediately answer, when the air feels heavy, the silence itself becomes communication. Jung believed that the unconscious often speaks loudest in these spaces. If you can stay calm and hold the pause, you allow hidden truth to rise instead of covering it with nervous chatter. Tone of voice also betrays what words attempt to hide. A man may speak casually, but his voice may soften when he addresses you. A sudden hesitation, a change in rhythm, or a deeper note slipping in are signs of emotional weight. Tone is harder to control than words. That is why it often reveals more than the sentence itself. Gestures give further clues. Watch the hands. Restless fingers, nervous adjustments, or the subtle act of touching his wedding ring often carry deep meaning. The ring is one of the strongest symbols in this interaction. Each time his hand reaches for it unconsciously, it is as if his shadow is reminding him of boundaries and the tension he feels crossing them. Even breathing speaks. A sharp inhale, a sudden sigh, or the need to clear the throat reveals tension building beneath the surface. The body reacts before the conscious mind can disguise it. Presence allows you to sense these shifts without needing a single question. But this is not only about him. You too are sending signals. Jung would remind us that communication is always mutual. When you hold eye contact without breaking, when you sit calmly in silence, when you resist predictable questions, you radiate signals of your own. They say, I am grounded. I do not chase validation. I can hold this space. These signals unsettle him because they awaken his unconscious. This is why noticing unspoken signals gives you power. Words are easily forgotten, but energy leaves a lasting impression. Most people speak too much and observe too little. They drown out the truth with noise. But when you stay still, when you notice the cues others miss, you step into a deeper layer of communication. Jung would call this the symbolic world, where meaning is not spoken but felt. Of course, there is a danger. Projection can make you see more than what is really there. A single glance does not mean destiny. Jung warned that fantasy can distort perception. To master this art, you must stay aware without losing balance. Notice the signs, but do not let imagination run ahead of truth. When you practice awareness, you no longer need to chase clarity. You let the unspoken reveal what the spoken tries to cover. The married man may never confess his attraction outright, but his tone, his pauses, and his gestures will. Jung would say this is the unconscious breaking through the mask, demanding to be noticed. The unspoken is where truth hides. When you learn to see it, you rise above ordinary conversation. You stop relying on predictable questions and start reading the hidden script of the soul. And once you reach this level, you will never again be confused by surface words. The clarity you need will already be in front of you, written in silence, waiting for you to recognize it. Boundaries that keep you strong. When you stand in front of a married man, the energy can feel heavy and magnetic. The silence may pull, the signals may stir, and the attraction may tempt you into forgetting yourself. But Jung would remind us that raw energy without limits quickly becomes destructive. What protects your power is not clever words or forced restraint, it is boundaries. Boundaries are not walls that shut you off. They are invisible lines that preserve your strength and make presence possible. Many women believe openness makes them more appealing, yet the truth is the opposite. Without boundaries, you give away too much and lose the tension that creates value. Jung wrote that energy needs form to transform. Desire requires space to breathe, and boundaries provide that space. They keep attraction alive without letting it consume you. Without them, you risk dissolving into his story and losing the center of your own. Boundaries begin within. They are not about harsh rules or dramatic announcements. They are about inner certainty, about knowing what you will allow and what you will not. A boundary can be as small as refusing to chase validation, or as firm as walking away when respect is crossed. The strength lies not in explanation, but in embodiment. A married man feels when a woman knows her limits, and that awareness commands quiet respect. When boundaries are ignored, projection takes over. You may confuse fantasy with truth, mistaking attraction for destiny. Jung warned that projection blinds us, making us prisoners of illusion. Boundaries protect you from that blindness. They remind you, this energy is real, but it is not my whole life. I choose what to accept and what to refuse. That choice is where freedom begins. Time is one of the strongest boundaries. Endless access weakens your presence. Limiting time creates scarcity, and scarcity creates impact. In absence, he feels you more. Jung taught that individuation requires both closeness and separation. Without separation, you lose yourself. Time boundaries keep you distinct, reminding both of you that your life has shape beyond him. Emotional control is another boundary. Intensity is intoxicating, but intensity is not truth. If you let emotions carry you away, you lose perspective. When signals appear, stay calm. Let silence expand. Respond with awareness, not desperation. This shows that your emotions belong to you, not to his shadow. Self-command is a language he cannot ignore. Physical space matters as well. Attraction blurs lines, and blurred lines can lead to choices that wound. Jung observed that the unconscious thrives in uncertainty. Without clarity, you may find yourself stepping where you never intended. Physical boundaries, how close you allow him, how much touch you accept, are anchors that protect your dignity. They let you stay in the mystery without falling into chaos. Boundaries also preserve worth. A married man carries responsibilities and conflicts that are not yours to hold. If you take them on, you weaken yourself. Boundaries remind you his burdens are his own. You are not here to rescue or to repair. You are here as yourself, whole, steady, complete. This separation shields you from carrying shadows that do not belong to you. Jung often wrote about opposites: desire and restraint, chaos and order, light and darkness. Boundaries are the balance between them. Without boundaries, energy is fire that burns. With boundaries, energy becomes fire that warms and transforms. They do not end attraction. They refine it. They prevent collapse and create meaning. Some fear boundaries push people away. The truth is the opposite. Boundaries generate respect. They create value. They make him lean forward rather than take for granted. He may not consciously know why, but he feels it. You cannot be consumed. And that sense makes you unforgettable. Boundaries make you untouchable in the best way. You cannot be broken by silence, swayed by flattery, or trapped in games that drain your soul. You stand firm, letting energy move but never letting it control you. Jung would call this individuation. Becoming whole, knowing yourself. Refusing to disappear into another's shadow. So remember, attraction may stir, silence may tempt, signals may pull, but boundaries keep you strong. They are the invisible lines that guard your soul while allowing mystery to stay alive. Without them, you lose yourself. With them, you remain free, and in that freedom, your presence becomes unforgettable. The projection trap. Jung believed that much of what we think we see in others is actually a reflection of ourselves. This is projection, and it is one of the most subtle yet powerful traps you face when speaking with a married man. The attraction feels strong, the silence feels heavy, and the connection seems undeniable. Yet very often, what you are responding to is not truly him. It is your own unconscious reflecting itself through his presence. Projection happens when the hidden parts of your psyche are placed onto another person. Instead of seeing them as they are, you see what you long for, what you lack, or what you have denied in yourself. A married man becomes a canvas for your unspoken needs. The desire for validation, the hunger for excitement, the wish to feel chosen, or the passion you keep buried. This is why he may feel larger than life. He is not just himself. He is the image of your own longing. The trap is powerful because projection feels real. The chemistry seems undeniable. The emotions strike deep. But Jung warned that what feels like fate is often illusion. You may think, he understands me more than anyone, when in truth you are seeing your own soul reflected in him. The magic is real, but it is not about him. It is about you finally meeting a part of yourself. And he is not immune. He projects onto you as well. He may see in you freedom, vitality, or passion, qualities he represses in his daily life. This is why the space between you feels so charged. It is not only attraction, it is shadow meeting shadow, unconscious energy colliding. In those moments, two people are not really meeting each other. They are meeting their own unacknowledged selves. If you are unaware, you lose clarity. You confuse fantasy with truth. His gaze feels like destiny. His silence feels profound. His attention feels like love. But in reality, you are responding not to him but to the reflection of your hidden self. Jung said projection is dangerous because it puts the weight of your inner life onto someone else, leaving you powerless to see clearly. The way out of this trap is awareness. When you feel the pull, pause. Ask yourself quietly, is this about him or is this about me? If his presence makes you feel alive, perhaps it is not his gift. It may be your own passion calling to be lived. If you believe he sees your depth, maybe it is a reminder to see yourself more deeply. Awareness shifts projection from a trap into a tool. Awareness does not kill attraction, it transforms it. Once you recognize projection, you can use it as a mirror. The married man shows you what you hunger for, and that hunger is information. It tells you what your soul wants to integrate. Jung believed projections, when reclaimed, become keys to growth. But if you remain blind, projection controls you. You may justify choices that wound your peace. You may cling to illusions saying, he is different or this is meant to be. You may ignore clear boundaries because the fantasy feels too intoxicating to resist. This is the real danger, mistaking illusion for destiny. Reclaiming projection requires courage. It means pulling back the energy you placed on him and facing it inside yourself. It is admitting that the attraction is not only about him, it is about you. Jung taught that individuation, the process of becoming whole, demands this step. When you reclaim your projections, you free yourself from illusion. You no longer need another to mirror your depths. You see them directly. This is liberation. Projection is not just deception, it is guidance. It shows you the unlived parts of your being. Every spark, every silence, every charged glance becomes a teacher. Instead of drowning in the fantasy, you rise through it, turning projection into self-discovery. The projection trap is powerful because it feels so convincing. But once you see it clearly, you stop confusing fantasy with fate. The married man is not your destiny, he is your mirror. And when you look into that mirror with awareness, you finally meet yourself. That is the real gift hidden inside the trap. Transforming forbidden desire into power. Forbidden desire has always carried a special kind of fire. When you are drawn to a married man, the attraction feels amplified by secrecy, by silence, by the simple fact that it should not happen. Jung would say this is not only about the man himself, but about the energy he awakens in you. Desire, especially when forbidden, reveals the parts of your psyche you have kept hidden. And if you remain conscious, you can turn that raw fire into strength rather than destruction. Desire is energy. It is not good or bad in itself. Left unconscious, it becomes obsession, fantasy, or reckless action. But when you bring awareness to it, desire becomes fuel. Jung believed that the unconscious holds enormous energy, and when it rises, you can either be consumed by it or integrate it into your life. The choice makes all the difference. The first step in transforming desire is to see it clearly. Do not deny it and do not romanticize it. Acknowledge it as energy moving through you. The attraction to a married man is not simply about him. It is about you meeting your own intensity. When you stop labeling the desire as wrong and instead view it as information, you create space to use it rather than be used by it. This energy can reveal unmet needs. Perhaps you crave more passion, more risk, more intimacy. The married man becomes the mirror that reflects those longings. Jung would say the desire points to what your soul is asking you to reclaim. Instead of falling into fantasy with him, you can ask, where in my life am I starving for this feeling? That question turns forbidden desire into guidance. Another step is learning to contain the energy. Most people want to discharge it quickly, through words, through actions, through confessions. But energy grows in containment. Holding it without spilling gives you power. Think of it as a fire. If uncontrolled, it burns wildly. But when contained, it can warm, inspire, and transform. Jung taught that individuation requires this discipline, learning to hold the tension of opposites without collapsing. When you channel desire consciously, you gain creativity. The same energy that pulls you toward the forbidden can be redirected into your work, your passions, your growth. Desire wakes you up. It shakes you from routine. Instead of letting it drag you into chaos, let it push you into your art, your purpose, your vision. What feels like temptation is actually raw life force waiting for direction. It is also important to separate the man from the energy. Many confuse the two. They think the married man himself holds the key to their fulfillment. But Jung would say he is only the trigger, not the source. The source is within you. Once you recognize this, you no longer cling to him as if he is your destiny. You see him as the mirror that revealed your own hunger. Boundaries remain vital here. Transforming desire does not mean acting on it recklessly. It means harnessing it without losing your center. When you stay grounded, you can hold the attraction without letting it control you. This balance gives you strength. It shows you that you are capable of carrying intensity without being destroyed by it. Desire also invites integration of the shadow. The shadow carries the parts of you that want freedom, passion, or rebellion. When forbidden attraction rises, it is the shadow asking to be seen. If you integrate it, you grow. If you deny it, it controls you. Transforming desire means saying, yes, I see this part of me. I honor it. I will use its energy wisely. This process is not about denial, but about mastery. Denial weakens you. Mastery strengthens you. Jung believed that wholeness comes when we bring unconscious forces into consciousness and use them with intention. Forbidden desire is one of the strongest of these forces. It can either destroy peace or build transformation. The choice depends on awareness. So the next time desire stirs, do not fear it and do not blindly obey it. Hold it, feel it. Ask what it reveals about you. Then channel it into growth, passion, creativity, and deeper self-awareness. In doing so, you prove that even forbidden energy can become a path to strength. The shadow gives you fire, but your awareness gives it shape. And in that shape, desire ceases to be a trap. It becomes power. Power to create, to transform, and to step more fully into the person you were meant to become. The Jungian path to inner clarity. After the tension, the silence, the attraction, and the weight of shadow, there is one final step Jung would always point toward: clarity. Without clarity, you remain trapped in projection, confusion, and the endless pull of desire. With clarity, you see yourself, the other person, and the situation for what they truly are. The path to this clarity is not about forcing answers from outside. It is about walking inward, listening to the deeper voice of the unconscious and integrating what you find. Jung taught that clarity comes through individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole. When you're drawn to a married man, the experience awakens hidden parts of you. These parts may feel chaotic, forbidden, or overwhelming. But if you bring them into awareness, they become pieces of your wholeness. Inner clarity begins the moment you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What in me is being revealed?" This shift is powerful. Instead of being consumed by attraction, you start to use it. Every silence, every glance, every surge of emotion becomes material for self-discovery. Jung believed the unconscious constantly seeks expression. When you face it consciously, you no longer drown in its flood. You learn to swim in it. The path to clarity requires honesty. You must admit the truth about what you feel, without shame and without denial. Desire is not weakness. Attraction is not sin. They are signals. They are messages from the parts of your soul you have not fully integrated. When you stop fighting them, you can finally hear what they are trying to say. Clarity also requires boundaries. You cannot see clearly if you are tangled in someone else's chaos. A married man carries responsibilities that are not yours. If you get lost in his world, your vision blurs. Boundaries protect your perspective. They remind you that his life is his journey, while yours is your own. Clarity shines when you refuse to carry what is not yours. Another step is reflection. Jung often used active imagination, a method of dialoguing with the unconscious through images, symbols, and inner voices. You can do the same. When desire stirs, close your eyes and imagine speaking directly with that energy. Ask it, "What do you want from me? What are you trying to teach me?" This practice transforms confusion into guidance. What once felt like chaos becomes a teacher. Clarity also grows through stillness. In silence, you notice signals more sharply. You feel the difference between projection and truth. You sense when energy comes from within and when it comes from him. Stillness helps you separate illusion from reality. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks in whispers, and those whispers can only be heard when you are quiet enough to listen. On this path, you must accept paradox. Attraction may remain. Desire may never fully disappear, but clarity means holding these feelings without letting them control you. You can acknowledge the shadow without obeying it. You can feel intensity without losing your balance. Jung called this holding the tension of opposites. It is in this tension that transformation happens. The ultimate clarity is seeing that the married man is not the answer. He is the mirror. He is the stage on which your unconscious plays out its hidden themes. Once you understand this, the power shifts. You no longer chase him for completion. You recognize that what you sought in him was always within you. This realization frees you. Inner clarity is not about erasing attraction, it is about integrating its message. It is about turning projection into self-knowledge, shadow into strength, and forbidden desire into energy for growth. With clarity, you no longer wander in confusion. You walk with awareness. You see yourself honestly, and you carry that vision into every part of life. Jung's path is demanding but liberating. It requires honesty, boundaries, reflection, stillness, and the courage to face what you once denied. But on the other side of this path is freedom. Freedom from illusions, freedom from repeating the same traps, freedom to stand in your presence whole and steady, no longer swayed by shadows. The Jungian path to inner clarity is the end of confusion and the beginning of transformation. It does not mean the attraction vanishes, but it means you are no longer ruled by it. You stand in truth. You see yourself. And in that vision, you discover the deepest power of all, the ability to choose your own path with eyes fully open.